Mm. Happy October, folks. Hope everybody is doing well. Yes, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, amongst, other things. Uh, I mean, I'm in my 40s, Coyote Azul. Everything's kind of tiring for me at this point. My life is being tired but having too much to do to rest. No, never did Ms. Wicked Wolf. I tried. I watched a couple of episodes. It just didn't grab me. Ah. 40s crowd, rise up or stay in bed, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. uh, 40 seems so long ago, and one day it will for me too. I'm still in the early part of it. Feeling the season? Of course, Jen. Of course. Like having the actual stream fall on October 1st. How could I not? uh, Daniel Day-Lewis is out of retirement in a film directed by his son. Isn't he out of retirement like every couple of years? Didn't he like first start retiring like a decade ago, and he keeps coming out of retirement to make a thing and then say he's retiring again? No, for real this time. I feel like this keeps happening. No, I have not, Ms. Wicked Wolf. Yes, Jason. Chris Christopherson is definitely one that will be missed. What's my favorite type of coffee? Um, Irish with a lot of cream. Yeah, there was that time when like he supposedly retired and became a cobbler. I think in Italy. I think the man just has ADHD. I'm not trying to actively diagnose him, but like I feel like he just gets hyperfixations that make him go, I don't need acting anymore, but then it wears off. Uh Yes, Ms. Wickerwolf, Ken Page recently as well. That's a name folks might be slightly less familiar with. He was the voice of Oogie Boogie in Nightmare Before Christmas, amongst others. Uh, Very lovely voice that man had. Lukewarm take. Daniel Day-Lewis is one of those capital A actors who's beloved for utterly absurd performances. Like There Will Be Blood. Like, I mean, I'm not even sure that's a lukewarm take. That's a statement of fact. Like he retires almost as often as Miyazaki. Oh, harsh but accurate. I have not seen Inside Out 2 yet either. I have. I might try and get to the movies this week. I don't know if that'll happen. I might, though. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh, reminder that while I will try and keep up with chat, keep up with the chat, keep up with the chat. The best and most reliable way to ensure that I see your comment or question and respond to it is to do it as a super chat, which in addition will get you a little gay heart of appreciation. Thank you, lovelies. Can't stand coffee. I'm a tea drinker in the morning. I go back and forth. I can't stand black coffee. I don't get how anybody can do black coffee. Already? Jen? Really? Huh. Not only did I watch it, Ms. Wicked Wolf, I have the first season on DVD. It was what I popped in when John Hurt died. It's been too wet lately to wear my spicy friendship bracelet. Oh, sorry to hear that, Dharma. I guess you haven't yet, but are you interested in the substance? I'm curious. I don't think it's going to come out where I am. Reminder, I live in the middle of nowhere. So the question for me is whether I still remember it by the time it hits streaming. Seeing as Phantom Thread is my favorite movie ever, this means he's not ending career in my opinion, absolute high note. I feel personally offended. Here's, I can't think of the Phantom Thread without remembering the experience of going to see it in the theater. It is a good movie. I do enjoy movies that kind of hide from you what they even are until you get to the back end. And it is one of those movies. But I can't think of that movie without... I went and saw it, and I have a witness to this. Because I went with my girlfriend, and the movie ended, and as soon as the credits started, like, I don't think it was only just us and this older couple. They're the only ones I remember in the theater. There might have been some other people scattered about. It wasn't full. But the movie ends, the credits start, the older couple, they start to stand up, and the guy turns to who I presume was his wife, and just out loud, not caring at the volume he said it, just went, "I hated that." That has become shorthand between me and my girlfriend since. I hated that. So that's always the first thing I think of when I think of the Phantom Thread. I can't help it. While I do think the Phantom Thread is a good movie, that moment was more memorable. What's my worst habit? Procrastination. The classic ADHD affliction. Ought to be old and rude. I can be rude at a young-ish age. Young-ish? I don't know. I don't feel like an adult. I need an adultier an adult. What's the worst part of procrastination? The things that need to get done starting to pile up. Procrastination isn't that bad when you only have one thing you're supposed to be doing. But the thing is, if you get behind on that one thing, that tends to mean that whatever you should have done after that is now also falling behind. And then more stuff's coming up that you can't get to until you start to do the things that you're already procrastinating from. And it just creates a pile. It's like it's like a to-do list equivalent of hoarding. You never clear anything out. You just get more and more and more. That's the worst part of procrastination. Works for me, Carolyn. I would never ask you to feel like an adult. And that's something about adulthood. We're all winging it all the time. Yeah, but I also feel like we're only just starting. Like, now that the millennials are hitting their 40s, I feel like we're only just starting to get a quote-unquote adult generation that's very open about the fact that we don't have a clue when we're winging it. I feel like our parents' generation, not all of them, some were honest, but by and large, as a body, they acted like they knew what they were doing. And still do, for that matter. Adulting is overrated. Is it overrated? I literally have never heard anyone say that adulting is awesome. Like, it sucks. and it's frustratingly required, I don't think it's overrated because I don't think anybody's praising it. I may get older, but I refuse to grow up. Doctor, you're being childish. Well, of course I am. There's no point in being a grown-up if you can't be childish sometimes. What's the worst thing about procrastination? I'll answer that when I get around to it. Yeah, stick a pin in that. I'll come back to it. Well, that's a whole other conversation. Mayanaka. My hubby does black coffee. I don't do coffee at all. I do coffee. Well, I do coffee with a lot of cream and sugar, or as I have in the house, it's just sweet cream. So, like, I like coffee that tastes more like coffee ice cream. I saw a documentary decades ago where they got people into age groups, even the 80-year-olds didn't think they were grown up. Good for them. I watched the first episode of Uzumaki, very faithful so far. I did too. I'm not sure that, like, it's fine. I'm not sure that it's actually benefiting moving to the anime format. It's in a way that's hard to put my finger on. I feel like it's going to be one of those adaptations that is a solid translation, but adds nothing, and the shift in presentation does not inherently bolster it, if that makes sense. Once when I was about 4, I got upset with my grandfather for not knowing I like the candy I like is chocolate. Excuse me. Watching how fast my nieces are growing up made me realize I must have been a baby like 8 seconds ago from his perspective. Yeah, roughly. The main advantage of adulthood is absolute freedom to watch effed up movies. Everything else sucks. I mean, like, I'll take it a step further. I think the best part of being adult is corn. I think that's it. I think that's about it. Cannot take coffee with any sugar or any milk or cream. Ugh. No, I can't do black coffee. Mayanaka, I wasn't ignoring you. I did respond. I didn't, like, read out your comment. I did respond to it, though. Todd's latest Train Records is the quickest he's done after an album release. It's on Kids Rock album. When did that come out? Wait a minute. Did I miss this? Usually catch these right away. Hang on. Oh, it must be like in early access on like Nebula or his Patreon or something. That would make sense. Rebecca Burgess, thank you very much for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Would you ever do a video comparing all 3 showrunners' 5 best episodes or 5 worst episodes? Maybe? See, that's the kind of thing where it starts getting like, I'm not an algorithm chaser. I'm not. But when I try and figure out the angles by which I'm going to talk about Doctor Who topics, I do have to kind of have a little bit of an eye on the algorithm. And when it starts to get a little bit too niche, a little bit too in the weeds of Doctor Who stuff, it doesn't perform well, which I don't normally care too much about stuff not performing well. But I do have to be careful about the Doctor Who stuff, because that's one of the things that the algorithm knows I do. So if that stuff starts underperforming, it could end up becoming a problem. Coyote Azul. Thank you very much for the very generous super chat. My goodness. Think they could do Richard III in the style and humor of the death of Stalin. Watched a doc that says Richard III's actions could have been more a series of well-intentioned compounding screw-ups than outright evil. Well, I haven't seen the death of Stalin. I keep meaning to. I have seen trailers for it. It looked funny. You probably could. Yeah, you could probably do that. I mean, you could probably take that approach with a lot of Shakespearean tragedies, or at least the ones that feature royal families at any rate. On the Little of Politics, how is Carter now seen in the U.S.? His birthday. So at this point, Jimmy Carter's generally well regarded as a person, if not as a president. Like, the man has spent his entire life living actual Christian principles of help thy neighbor, of doing good, of making the world a better place. And you'll still get people debate how good of a president he was, but even people who I'm sure don't like him know to shut up, because there isn't a lot that you don't really have a leg to stand on if you're going to try and bash Jimmy Carter. I mean, like, there's a reason why it was a joke in The Simpsons, like, 25 years ago, where, like, I think it was one of the times that the statue of Jebediah Springfield was damaged, and they, like, replaced it with a statue of Jimmy Carter. And one of the townspeople goes, "He's history's greatest monster." Like, somebody saying that about Jimmy Carter is the joke. So, as a human being, he's very well regarded. As a president, probably a lot of arguments. Because of my OCD and autism, I got mad at my extended family for a lot of stuff like that. In retrospect, yeah, I realized, why is this kid making weird demands right after learning to talk? Yeah, like, especially at a time when they may not have been able to get on top of that. Like, I think these days there's enough stuff known that, resources are available to parents who seek them out a heck of a lot earlier. Of those three, Ms. Wicked Wolf, at the moment, I'm going to say Halloween is Grinch Night, not because it's better than the others, but because that's the one it's been the longest since I've seen. I need to rewatch that one this year. Well, KJB, that would make it very similar to a fair few Democratic presidents. Yeah, that is kind of the thing, Coyote is. Carter inherited a lot of problems, and also a lot of stuff happened that he couldn't help. That, like, no matter who was in charge, it was gonna like stuff like the gas shortage. That was gonna happen no matter who was in charge. But it's also like, you're the one in charge when this goes wrong. So, it's tough. It is hard to disentangle, and I'm not enough of a history or politics buff to have any business trying to do it. It is tough to disentangle how much of what happened during Carter's administration was a direct result of anything he did, or just him not doing the best job at mitigating stuff that was just happening. The Driz books would make a great anime series. I imagine Idris Elba voicing. For some reason, I imagine Driz with a younger sounding voice than that. Could work, though. But yes, I do generally agree. Like, an action anime based off the Driz books. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'd be all over that. Oh, that'd be really good. Carter also inherited Ford Nixon baggage of the previous 8 years. Well, yeah. I mean, like, it's... it's difficult. One of the tricky things in trying to judge a one-term president is trying to figure out how much of what went on was their fault or them failing to pick up the pieces, or whether or not anybody else could in their place. Now, once you got a two-term president, by and large, what doesn't go right during their second term, they can be held a hell of a lot more accountable for. And that's not to let one-term presidents off the hook for what happens during their term, just because like they inherit whatever the previous administration was doing. But you do have to admit that you look at something like Obama coming in. His first term, he inherited a global financial meltdown. And I think if he hadn't gotten a second term, he probably would have shouldered probably more of the blame, not for it happening, but for the slow recovery. But, since he was there for as long as he was, he got over that hump, and, we can get mad at him for other stuff like, weakening some areas of regulation and all the goddamn drone strikes. Mars Fargo? What did I miss? Wait, what? So wait, worst part, we don't talk. Okay, hang on. There's a whole conversation I have missed. Hang on a second. Mom tried to get you surgically cured of autism? What? Worst part is she's a licensed social worker. Holy Wow. Oh, jeez. I'm so sorry. Wow. All the support in the world for cutting off contact. Good grief. Whew. One thing I remember at age 4 is once a teacher told my mother I was walking around the classroom rather than paying attention. She said I remembered every topic they covered, then told her all the stuff recounted by me. I mean, one of the odd things about being neurodivergent in the school system is part of the way the school system can often let you down is that we can succeed in it in some ways. So, like, for me, as somebody with ADHD, I was good at sort of power running an assignment. Like, I'd leave it to the last minute and then power through it. And unfortunately, that worked. And I say unfortunately because that worked through high school. You get to college, you start getting assignments that you can't do that. But I hadn't really learned how to not do that. So, I mean, it's all part of the burnt out gifted child pipeline. In school, you don't make waves and follow the rules. I mean, yeah, but I mean, one of the other frustrating things about school, and unfortunately this is still the case, as long as your grades are good, they'll let you flounder in any number of other ways. There's these social difficulties, and there's this going on, and there's this, like, yeah, but the grades are fine. Because that's the metric that the school itself gets measured by in terms of how they are assessed. So as long as grades are okay, they don't care what your problems are, which is really frustrating. Stories like that are one of the reasons why I kept my mouth shut when I knew I was trans as a little kid in the 60s and 70s. I can't say I blame you, KJB. I can't blame you at all for that. Burnt out gifted kid, did you call my name? Yeah, I think it describes a lot of us. I had a teacher who actually told kids to tease and torture me. Yeah, that at the very least seems to have mostly gone away. We do still have the issues of teachers failing to do anything about the kids who are taking their own initiative on that. But I'm gonna move off that topic because I get too frustrated and can go on too long. Hey, Meg, it's good to see you. I'm glad you made it in, regardless. Happy October. I recounted the Phantom Thread story earlier. I hated that. Thing I didn't notice in Ghostbusters until it was pointed out recently. After they sold stuff to get money to set up their own business, Egon's calculator is suddenly tiny. I didn't catch that either, Rowan. That's interesting. My issue was I didn't understand what an essay was supposed to be, so I kept being like, I don't understand why you want me to make answers to this so long-winded. I had that problem with essays. I would have to pad for length because I would make my point really succinctly, and then it'd be like, yeah, but it needs to be 2 pages long. But I'm like, I don't need 2 pages to make my point. Of course, now I don't have a video under 20 minutes on the main channel anymore. 20 minutes, who am I kidding? Half hour. So, times change, I guess. Well, thank you, Meg. I appreciate that. Did you catch the part where Egon is suddenly motioning for Peter when discussing payment? I did. I only caught that as an adult, though, because I grew up on 4:3, so it was cropped, and Egon was cropped out of that shot. So I didn't know he did that until I was grown up and watched it on DVD in widescreen. So that's one of the things about growing up on VHS. You eventually see movies that you grew up on as a kid in widescreen in the proper formatting, not cropped, and you realize there were entire aspects of the movie that you just didn't get because it was literally not on screen. Wordiness dilutes ideas. It can. I mean, there's wordiness and then there's clarification, although you can also over-clarify, so. Pan and scan generation. Yeah, Joel. Whoop, whoop. The following has been altered from its original formatting. It has been formatted to fit this screen. I had a teacher in high school I liked, but he got really bitter right before he retired. He had 2 sons and both of them died. Ugh. I mean, that would do it. Alternatively, they made Buffy widescreen, ruining it. Well, yeah, that was... Oh, what the hell were they even thinking with that? Like... The taking of a widescreen movie and shrinking it down to 4:3 was something that was just done at the time. And later on, even when 4:3 was still a thing, some people would start appreciating the widescreen versions, and like you could get them even on VHS with the black bars in the top and the bottom of the screen. But like taking something that was shot for 4:3 and trying to stretch it out, oh, what a goddamn disaster. If people don't know, stuff that went on with the Buffy remaster, where they remastered it for widescreen, the problem was they thought it would be a piece of cake because the thing was actually shot on widescreen film and then cropped. But the thing is, it was shot knowing what would be cut out. So they used the full frame that they did have footage for. So like, all right, let me back up. When you're taking a 4:3 format and you try to make it fit widescreen, you have 2 options. One option, you either crop it and cut off the top and the bottom to fake a widescreen aspect ratio, which means you're literally chopping stuff out of the frame. Or, in the case of Buffy, because they had this option, because it was shot on 16:9 and then cropped down, they thought, great, we'll just go back to the original 16:9 footage. But that 16:9 footage, stuff that was outside the 4:3 frame, wasn't supposed to be there. So there's all this stuff in the widescreen version of Buffy where you can see the crew. You can see them like bracing the set because someone's going to get thrown against the wall. You can see somebody with the boom mic because they were in a part of the frame that they knew was going to get cropped out, but they extended it back out again. Oh, it was goddamn disaster. So bad. Also, I like 4:3. Give 0 Fs. Fair. Very fair. I had a teacher around that age that tried to break me of being left-handed. Oh, gosh. Yeah, when that was a thing. So I am going to, I'm going to pop over to the Discord. And doesn't look like I have too much on there, so I'll try and get through these quickly. Let's see. How would you describe computer animated cartoons to someone in 1993 who'd only ever seen live action films or traditionally animated cartoons? I once saw an interview with Tom Hanks where he said when Pixar reached out to him about playing Woody, they showed him some of the test animation. He was talking to his friends about it afterwards. They asked him what the animation looked like, and he couldn't think of anything to compare it to because it didn't look like a normal cartoon. It also didn't look like real live action. He said the best thing he could think of was looks like living plasticine. I think that's a good way to put it. I think probably the way I would have put it is imagine stop motion or claymation, but it's 100% smooth. Like there isn't the little juddering motions. It's all smoothed out. Probably how I would have tried to explain it. When I was Googling how to spell plasticine for the above question, I found out Aardman Animation sells kits with models of their characters along with a stop motion phone cam app so you can make films with their characters in. Oh! Maybe Aardman doesn't do this, but you think it'd be wrong to put out a product like that, still come down hard on fan films posted online with your characters in it? I don't know about their history with fan films. Whether they are the kinds who come down on every and all iterations of it, whether they only come down on ones that are trying to be monetized and make money off of it. Like you studios and or individuals who come down on fan works kind of run the gamut. But if they are the types to slam down on all of it, then yeah, that's kind of a dick move for them to do that. Remember I told you one of my nieces got upset because her twin sisters were more enthusiastic about starting school than her and said, I'm not as brave as my sister. I know you have only one kid. What would you say if one of your kids said they felt inadequate compared to a sibling? I don't know. I'm bad at those kinds of hypotheticals because I don't know. I only have one kid. I have no idea how I would handle having two kids, and I'll never know how I would have. I have no clue. I would never know how to handle two kids, and I don't have to. Just a second. Sorry, give me a second here. All right. When you do a ranking of Doctor Who season finales, which I am doing later this month, do you think you will do the same as with the season premieres, only include the last episode rather than the whole story, i.e. just Journey's End without Stolen Earth? Yes, that's my intent, because I just want to look at how everything paid off and not deal with setup halves. And that's going to benefit some stories and hurt others. Do you need ID to cross the border from Vermont to Quebec and back if you're a US or Canadian citizen? Yep. Yes, you do. If you could reboot one long canceled show, what would it be? I don't think I would. I don't think I would because, like, whatever was good about it, like I don't like reboots in general. And you know, if it was canceled before its time, that might be sad, but that doesn't mean I want it rebooted. So I don't. My brain kind of rejects the question. Mm. Have you seen Southland Tales? Nope. Have you seen Megalopolis? Nope. Do you plan to? Nope. Sorry, just burning through these ones. What's something you love that was super, super, yeah. What was something you loved that was super popular at the time but now largely forgotten? I can't really think of anything. Partially because I come from the generation where the stuff that was popular with my generation, like legit popular, not niche popular, it's not allowed to die because they've been selling my generation's nostalgia back to us for the last 20 years. So, like, it's not allowed to get forgotten, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't think. I feel real bad for these questions. I'm just like, nope, I don't know. Just trying to think if there was something. All right, this is the only one that's coming to my head, so I'll go with this. The Fugitive, the movie, the Harrison Ford movie. I feel like that hasn't carried on to later generations. It should. It's really, 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 really good. I feel like that one's getting lost in the sands of time. It somehow doesn't feel like October. Is this how time feels when getting older? Yeah, for some of us. Hey, it's October. You got to wake up because you asked us to wake me up when September ends. That was awful. Why did I decide to do that? Okay, here we go. And I'm back to the chat. Let's see. I placed the original Battlestar Galactica in the category of canceled too soon, but would not reboot. The new Battlestar Galactica need not apply. I'm probably gonna start. That's probably most likely what Jesse and I are doing next once we properly finish Babylon 5 is Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. Wasn't there supposed to be a Babylon 5 reboot? Yes, there was, Kura. But with all the nonsense over at Warner Brothers, because they own the rights, that's all flubbed, and who even knows. It's a good movie. I love the original TV series. I've only seen bits and pieces of the series. The movie's real good. Like, it's a real good, well constructed thriller. It's exciting to be both excited for the guy trying to run away, but also really liking the people trying to chase him down. So you're kind of rooting for them both. It's so good, so good. Agatha all along, so campy and gay. Have you seen it / will you? I've seen the first 2 episodes, and I didn't do a video on them because I don't have enough thoughts on it. Like, I'll probably watch the rest of the season. And once the season's done, maybe I'll have something to say. But so far, I just don't feel like I have anything interesting to say about it in either direction. Like, that's neither a knock nor a praise. That's me going like, okay. And when that's my feeling about something, I'm disinclined to talk about it because I'm like, what am I adding to the conversation? Anything? Doesn't feel like it. Here's what I will say. I need more Aubrey Plaza because right now she is the best thing in it, which is not surprising. But I would really like some more of her very soon, please. Supreme Omega. Thank you for the super chat. Compared to Barry, thoughts on Hal's revival? Because it did lead to cool stuff like the multicolored lanterns and Blackest Night and Parallax was not loved. Okay, so for context, for some folks, we're talking about Barry Allen, The Flash, and Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, both of whom died and were later resurrected. Overall, I don't have the same issues of being like, you should not have done this with resurrecting Hal that I do with Barry, largely because for many, 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 many fans, Hal's death was mishandled, and like his final arcs with what was it, Emerald Twilight or whatever it was not well regarded, and a lot of fans felt very stabbed in the back by that storyline. So I think there was a lot more reason to bring back Hal, if only as a corrective, because they'd really kind of done him dirty in the last year or two of his run before they killed him. Whereas Barry was given an amazing sign-off in the biggest, most epic story that DC did at the time, and arguably, it's still the biggest and most epic story. Why the hell was Barry brought back? Why? And they've been screwing over Wally ever since he was. Ugh. So infuriating. I can't remember if this math is correct, but I remember seeing somewhere that for some fans, Wally West held the title of Flash longer than Barry Allen did. But Wally was effectively, for a while at least, erased to bring back Barry. And even after Wally was no longer erased, they have screwed him over so badly. It's, ugh. There was reason to bring back Hal, because you could make an argument that they effed up in his exit. Barry, they didn't. They didn't F up. They gave him a great exit. So what the hell? There's a difference between undoing a death that didn't work and undoing one that landed really well and was meaningful. There's a massive difference. My mother has a trapped nerve, can barely walk. She just got up to go to the bathroom, kept repeating, when you're done, you can go back to bed and cry. Oh my God, goodness. I'm sorry. 255. That feels like a little more personal than I feel like I should be hearing, to be honest. Watching a bunch of Aubrey Plaza, Patti LuPone interviews. Their chemistry is hilarious. I have seen that. Well, no, I haven't seen them interviewed together. I have seen Aubrey Plaza interviewed talking about Patti LuPone. That's been very funny. So I guess we get that out of it. Something I don't get about the DC movies and TV shows is why didn't they just stick to the versions of those characters from the DCAU? Because Warner Brothers doesn't have respect for its animated division. It never has. So that's not the real version. And despite, at least for a stretch of time, the animated stuff being the most praised and acclaimed, they didn't care. I was excited to watch Over the Garden Wall for October, only to find out I didn't have the right streaming services. Guess I'll rewatch Owl House instead. Physical media. I own that one physically. And I'm very happy for that fact. Keep hearing Wally instead of Wally. Nope. See, I don't like Wally. So, American superheroes are like soap opera. They are relentlessly milked for all their worth and not permitted to graciously bow out. They were always like soap operas in some respects, but it just, I would say, especially as we got into the 2000s, and I'm not going to say it didn't happen prior to that. It did, especially with guys like Roy Thomas. But you would have some, like in the 80s and the 90s, some people being like, oh, I want it to be like what it was when I was young and reading it. And like you'd have a little of that, but a lot of people then were excited to do their own stuff, to do new stuff. You had a real wave of new, not always good, but new and very excited creatives looking to do new stuff, to introduce new ideas in the 80s and the 90s. Again, not always good ideas. It's okay, 255. I'm not. It's okay that you said it, and if you needed to say it, that's okay. It's just it was a lot. But 80s and 90s, you had a real verve and a real creative burst. Again, not all good, but boy were they trying. But then we got to the 2000s, and you just had a generation of writers being like, I want it to be like when I was younger. And there's, especially at DC, but also at Marvel, just resetting to old status quos from the 80s and the 70s and bringing back versions of characters, and especially at DC, ignoring the legacy. Like, the legacy characters was one of the most interesting things that DC had going over Marvel. The idea of the legacy characters and the sidekicks taking over the mantles led to some really interesting stuff that they could do that Marvel really couldn't, because Marvel didn't really do that dynamic. So, Firestorm, that's another one. They brought back whatever the hell the name of the original guy was, despite the fact that his replacement had been Firestorm for longer. The comic books in many ways kind of signaled the self-devouring nostalgia of media we're now experiencing in TV and video games and movies. It kind of happened in comic books first, because comic books are a cheaper medium, so they kind of speed ran it. It was like the canary in the coal mines, but that's been what's going on ever since. There's a special Over the Garden Wall anniversary celebration coming November 3rd, which is a collaboration with Aardman Animations. Interesting. That's why I read DC Comics as a kid. It had a history. Yeah. And like that, and it's not a better or worse thing, but that was one of the things that used to distinguish DC. Whoa! Hang on. Something happened. Sorry, something went screwy. Okay, I think I'm back. But yeah, that was one of the things that was really a distinction between DC and Marvel. And you could pick what you preferred, because Marvel had its rolling timeline where time didn't really move forward much, or it moved forward by small increments. Whereas DC wasn't necessarily happening in real time, but you could actually have active conversations of, about characters being like, yeah, I am the replacement of this older version who used to have the same mantle. It was a different approach and allowed them to work in a different way and not feel like they were just trying to be what the other one was. And if I can be honest, it was largely DC decided to hate Marvel once Marvel started out selling them, but then it just became a big back and forth, and it's just a mess now. So the problem with superheroes seems to be the biases and preferences of whoever's in charge of the script. Well, also the editors, Coyote Azul. Editorial mandate is at the heart of a lot of problems. So let's not pretend that they don't mess stuff up. When is it okay to have the protagonist in a kid's show outright kill the antagonist? Do they have to be irredeemable? In my mind, if the show is actually intended for kids, yeah, you either need to have a villain that is completely irredeemable and you've earned that determination, which the Owl House did, or you need to do the thing where the villain is killed at least partially because of their own actions. So either one of those probably what you need to do most of the time. Fun over the garden wall trivia. Jenna Ortega was one of the Cloud City reception committee. I did not know that, Rowan. That's fun. I lump editors in the general category of people in charge by default. Fair enough. I love that the original adult just became the original adult just became a Robin. The original Robin just became an adult and didn't become Batman. That was nice. That was nice. Nightwing got to be its own thing. Jason Todd should have stayed dead, and Damian Wayne was a mistake. There you go. There you go. Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing, awesome. Jason Todd dying, excellent. Tim Drake, fantastic. Should have stopped there. Should have stopped there. Tim's the best Robin. Damian's a pain in my ass. Jason should have stayed dead. That's your Batman hot takes for the evening. Erica! Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. It's a very generous super chat. I appreciate it greatly. Happy October. Hope all 31 days treat you well. I hope that this month is indeed a treat with minimal tricks. And I hope that it will treat everyone else very well. I was talking about the Earth 2 version. I don't know Earth 2 very much. Like how Simon Laurent isn't actually killed by the protagonist on Infinity Train. Yeah, that kind of thing. Or, a lot of, not all of them, but a lot of the, especially early Disney villains, like the Evil Queen, they don't kill her. She does die, but anyways. And of course, don't forget the original Disco Elvis Nightwing costume. Oh, Disco Nightwing. My goodness. Tara Staller, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Hey, Vera. So my friends got me into a new free-to-play game called Warframe. I really enjoyed it if you're looking for recommendations. It's fast-paced looter shooter. It's first person, though, isn't it? I think I've heard of that one. Hang on a second. Warframe. Oh, it's third person technically, but it's fully 3D rendered. I get motion sick playing it. Thank you for the recommendation all the same, Tara. I do appreciate when people offer their thoughts on that, and I hope that you have fun with it. What are your Marvel hot takes? They shouldn't have broken up Peter and Mary Jane's wedding. I'm not sure that's a hot take. That one's pretty agreed upon. I don't know. It's probably mostly a bunch of this person should have stayed dead takes, which, that's going to be true of most superhero stories. Basically, any character that died was brought back, and a lot of them should have just stayed dead. Any random Doctor Who hot takes before we end the stream? Not off the top of my head. I feel like I spew those two constantly. I can't just pull one. I hope October is a good month. I hope it isn't the last good month for the U.S. Well, fingers crossed. That's about all we can do. That and vote. If you are registered in the U.S. to vote, please vote. And please vote for Harris. I understand if you don't like her across the board. I don't like her across the board. But duty of care, harm reduction. You owe it to your fellow human beings. Please. Please. Good grief. Just mail my absentee ballot tonight. Yeah, I have mine. Well, no, it's not absentee. Vermont is still doing the thing where they're just sending out everybody's ballot to them, to their house, so you can either mail it back or bring it in on election day. So I have to fill mine out. Having now completed my rewatch of the Elm Street films at the age I am now, I truly think the backstory of Freddy's conception is gross, also deeply unnecessary. I'll give you a Nightmare on Elm Street hot take. New Nightmare is the best one. So there we go. And you're feathered human beings. There was meat in this, Meg. Give me a break. We got early voting where I am. We'll take a whole day off to vote. Good call. Black cover. I suspect I know where you're going at with that. I am a pragmatist and a consequentialist. I care about the realistic outcome. If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, both candidates are bad on that. They are. And I'm going to go ahead and allow myself to be an asshole about this. If it hurts your conscience to vote for Harris because of that, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about your conscience. I don't care about whether or not you can sleep at night. I care about the practical outcome. And the practical outcome is that the situation over there in Gaza is effed, and it will be regardless of who wins. Does that make it okay? No, absolutely not. It absolutely does not. And no matter who wins, we should be pushing to bring an end to that and to stop supplying weapons that are being used to kill civilians and children. Like, that should happen regardless, but right now it's not on the table. So with that in mind, there is a very clear cut, no debate, who will cause more damage. And I don't care if it pulls on your conscience to vote for Harris. I don't. You owe other people to help reduce the harm. Can we eliminate the harm? No. I wish we could. We can't. But you can do something to reduce it. And other people are more important than your conscience. I don't care if you can sleep at night. And to be clear, Black Cover, I understand that you were posing a hypothetical philosophical, so don't take that as being directed to you personally. That was me addressing the perspective directly. Supreme Omega sneaking in last minute with the super chat. Buffy season 6, did Tara need to be killed off? I mean, like, it's fiction. Nothing needs to happen. It's all a choice. But that having been said, I think that the story that was intended to be done with Willow, I think that to tell the story of Willow at the tail end of season 6, that was probably necessary. Now, that leaves it hanging on the question of whether or not you think Willow's story was worth telling at that cost. And that's not one I feel comfortable trying to answer today. But I will say that to tell that story, yes, I think it was necessary. Was it a story worth telling, especially knowing that was the cost? That I would call that very debatable. But anyways, I need to wrap it up. Let me think. So what have I got coming up? I've got a Twitch stream tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to be playing. I got to figure that out. There will not be a Twitch stream on Friday. So that's not happening. There is a review of the second episode of Penguin up in the break room of Geeks. That's up already. Tomorrow I will have a classic Doctor Who video up in the break room, and there'll be other stuff going on later on. Saturday's video is on AI-generated subtitles and why they absolutely suck and why they're happening at all. So that's what's coming up. I think Quill and Sword starts its new campaign on Thursday. If I have my timing right, I'm about 60% sure I'm right about that. But in any case, that's what's coming up. I'm glad you made it too, May. It's okay that you missed the first bit. No worries. So thank you all for stopping in. And thank you for joining me, and thank you for the super chats. Folks were very generous tonight, and I appreciate it immensely. So, next week. Oh, right. Thank you, Carolyn. Yes, no, I've got my days completely mixed up. So it's not this Thursday for Quill and Sword. It's next week. Yeah. So much for that 60%. Thank you, Carolyn, for catching me on that. But thank you, everybody, for joining me. Be well, be safe, be kind. You are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council, and I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!